mothers want the best for you. They want you to succeed. They want you to grow. They want you to be not a burden. I was just running errands and a matatu crossed me, and there was a lot of smoke in my face. And I started complaining. I said, oh, man, this is Kenya. Like, can people fix this? This is so annoying. And then I thought, hey, you're looking for a really interesting idea. I wanted to gamify pollution and gamify climate change to make it sexy to young kids. And at the same time, I still had opportunities to go to the US to study.
Making the decision not to go to college, how did your parents and your relatives react to that?
Our relatives be damned. One thing that really convinced me is I spoke to a bunch of people in places where I wanted to be. I could spend 4 years building my company, and by the time everyone else is out of uni.
As the founder and CEO of Mazi Mobility, where do you see your company in the next, 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line?
All over the continent. A good idea is great. It's a multiplier of success, but execution and ability to deliver is something people want. We need to make sure Africa is built by Africans.
Okay. So, Jesse, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, actually, it's been quite some time you're trying to get this interview together, and I'm glad that you have finally pulled it together.
Yeah. I'm also happy we've managed to connect. It's towards the end of the year, so we're just trying to wrap things up.
Oh, how has the year been for you?
The year has been eventful, to say the least.
Yeah.
Obviously, right now there's a new strain of COVID, Omicron. But we essentially launched publicly. I know it was on my LinkedIn for a long time. Mazi Mobility in the world around April, and it's been a really exciting year so far, especially talking about e-mobility, talking about the future of electric transportation and sustainable transportation on the continent.
That's great, actually. And speaking about sustainable, transportation, this is not the first sustainable project that you're actually working on. I remember when we were back in high school, you're actually working on the living machine.
Yeah. So the living machine, as Renaissance, you recall, is a wastewater facility that I built together with my colleague Mutia, a friend as well. It was a wastewater treatment facility that would recycle nearly 3,000 liters of water a day from the school, 1,000 liters of water per day. And the whole point of it was to make sure ALA would then, African Leadership Academy, would then take a step towards understanding its water footprint. Mm-hmm. It was especially at a time when ALA was using drinking water to irrigate grass. And that's crazy because Cape Town was going to day zero. Yeah, you could actually drink the water from the sprinklers.
Exactly.
So we thought there's a better way of doing this. Yeah. So we built it remotely before the world had to go remote. Muncha was in Ghana and I was here in Kenya. And then we had a really good team of second years who are in your class who carried it on for us.
Yeah, I remember the living machine was actually one of the largest projects ever done at the Academy, African Leadership Academy. And so what?
No, I think so. I think so. That's an accurate statement. Yes.
What made you think of actually trying to, look into the project and try and see how, you can recycle water, actually, the school using clean water for irrigation?
As I mentioned earlier, so Cape Town was going through day zero, and we really thought that this. So we started looking at water specifically, mm-hmm. And we realized in Gauteng, where we are, where LA was, exactly Gauteng, where LA was located, there was an issue of water scarcity. 12.5 million people were facing water scarcity, would potentially face water scarcity in Gauteng, and where Johannesburg is. So we thought, hey, maybe we may not be able to do something about Cape Town, but how can we start the conversation and beyond starting a conversation, have meaningful impact? on campus, in a place where there's going to be, thousands and thousands of young leaders that will go through it over the course of the next few years. For us, it was more of a legacy piece, an edifice showing LA students that there's more to life than selling T-shirts and working at Southcorp. No shade, but absolutely can build something meaningful and impactful to not only the people around you, but the environment in a good way. And obviously, I sit here very privileged, although we worked really hard at the same time, to have won the desired sustainability prize, which was $100,000 grant.
And that was a lot of money.
Yeah, it was it was a good amount of cash.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, after you graduated, of course, you left it to us, and we also had students who are actually working on the projects. But is it something that you also continued working on even after you graduated from LA? Were you still thinking about?
No, I do think it's actually a good question. I mean, Mazi has completely overtaken my mind. So for me, I see it as it's one of these things where it was supposed to be handed over to the next generation of LA students, and hopefully they hand it over and hand it over. It's kind of like a succession based. So that's how I think Wunti and I envisioned it. So I mean, I did get a response recently from one of the LA students on campus about ways we could think about improving it. I hear there have been a few issues, which is natural. So I think it's good that ALA students are thinking about this and thinking about figuring out ways to then bring it, maybe more into the present or kind of take on the project.
Well, I actually wouldn't be surprised, hearing that LA students are still thinking about the project, because I mean, that institution actually has some of the smartest people in the continent who are actually doing some great things out there.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely an example. Just like glancing through your LinkedIn, we see you're doing a lot of stuff in Cheka and why we're here as well.
Yeah,
the podcasts.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, I actually thought about it. It's like we have a lot of people who are doing things out there, and it's like we hardly get an opportunity to hear, what they're doing in their stories, and I think that's why I actually started this, so that you can hear the story of people like yourself who are actually doing great things out there. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just grab a jacket.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, please go on.
Okay, yeah. So was this the first sustainable project that you're actually working on when at ALA leaving Mazi? Because you actually founded Mazi after you were working on the Living project. So were you actually doing any sustainable projects before working on the Living Machine at the African Leadership Academy?
Well, not really at the scale of Mazi or the Living Machine, but I think one of the things that got me into LA to begin with was I had a photography collective. So Mazi initially was a photography collective.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I know. What an evolution.
But actually an interesting one.
Yeah, but we essentially I coordinated with a bunch of my friends to then really get to a point where we could take photos of the environment and sensitize people about pollution and stuff. I think this was before Kenya banned plastics. And so we'd go around to parks and just take pictures. And then I just kind of post that online. So I think that was kind of my first glance. Initially, it was also supposed to be a children's app where we wanted to, kind of have a small matatu and kind of 2D, the way you play with Mario.
Yeah.
Matatu and a bunch of levels where kids would play and emissions and you'd have to fight it and stuff. So that was an interesting thought. It never really materialized, but I was thinking one day maybe I could do something that was sweet like that. So I wanted to gamify pollution and gamify climate change to make it sexy to young kids and appealing rather to young kids and something that adults and people could get behind in a way that then trains people about the next generation of, the world. We need to be very cognizant of the fact that we don't have a lot of time, and the world is heating up. Climate change is definitely a real thing. So, but I always feel like sustainability is baked into who I am as a person.
That's interesting. And also speaking about banning plastics in Kenya, actually, Tanzania, we actually learned that from Kenya, right? So after you guys banned plastic, it took us a couple of time, and then we also banned, and I think it's the same thing in Rwanda. So I like the fact that a lot of African countries are actually taking an initiative towards, like eliminating plastics in the environment.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Nairobi is still not as clean as Kigali, but I think we're taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, Kigali it's really clean. The experience that I've had here, the place it's really amazing. You'll be surprised when you're actually out here.
Yeah, I was in Kigali, I think like 3 weeks ago. So I was really impressed. By how it looked like. Just really organized, really clean. It was amazing.
Yeah, it looks like you really had an interesting experience out here.
No, also I think Kigali is pioneering a lot of mobility initiatives. So it was really cool to see. Like I had my first trip in an electric car, the e-Polos, the Volkswagen cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that was really interesting to see, and also just kind of like, we call them motors there, we call them bodas in Kenya, motorcycles. So also get to see what other people are doing with electric motorcycles in that part of the country, part of the continent.
Yeah, and I think it was also a good experience because in Rwanda, I think more than any East African countries, like in Kigali itself, it's like everybody uses motor, how they call them, you call them boda boda. In Tanzania, we actually call them toyo. So we actually have a lot of people who are using, and it's like the common means of transport around the area.
Right, yeah, no, certainly. I think there's a huge advantage to using a motorbike. I mean, if you've been in Kenya, there's a lot of traffic here. It's not pleasant. So yeah, motorbike does get you across, but the problem is no safety, and obviously it's like really pollutive. So it's got like a lot of emissions. So this is the thing.
Yeah. So now let's get into the project that's actually taking a lot of your time, your brain power, your energy, and the project that you're actually putting everything you have into, Mazi Mobility, right? So did you start thinking about Mazi Mobility when you're still at ALA or immediately after you graduated? Because actually one of the hardest decisions that you make, and it's a decision that most people might find it to be a little bit risky, was actually choosing not to go to college and instead work on your project, right? So when did you start thinking about this, and how much does this project means to you?
Well, I started thinking about the project or the company actually at ALA. So there's this thing called OID, original idea for development, that
yeah.
So I never did that. And we had this thing, I don't know if it was in your year, it's called online, which I absolutely failed. Shout out to my EL teachers who failed me.
Mr. Tate.
Look at me now. But yeah, I felt like I wanted to do something in my community back in my home. So I was kind of thinking about what to do. I knew I really liked tech, I really liked science. I wanted to be something tech-wise, but I also wanted it to be something meaningful and impactful. I think being at ALA really showed me how much of a bubble people live in, and the continent had some really major problems, and those problems were around energy, water, and food, based on my understanding. So critical problems to the continent. So that's where I wanted to focus my energy. And then I knew the living machine gave me the experience of doing a mix of the two, because we had food in the living machine, we had energy, and we had water. So for me, that was really, really important. But then I was also an ALA chair, and I was the chair of the African Development Bank, and I conducted a case study on intracontinental transportation. And I realized that in the last 50 years, the continent has not had any meaningful change in terms of climate. So, and in terms of actually transportation infrastructure. So I saw this as one really interesting problem because, we transport, in Africa is fragmented, it's highly inefficient sometimes, it's still very safe. Yeah, so the few problems, it's quite pollutive. And relatively, I think transport specifically in Kenya is our most pollutive industry. And then, now with electric vehicles, those are tying with power and with the grid. Anyway, so when I came back after first year, I wanted to push something. It still hadn't landed on me, and I was working in CBD. I was just running errands, and a matatu crossed me, and there was a lot of smoke in my face. And I remember getting so upset. Yeah, and I started complaining. I said, oh, man, this is Kenya. Like, can people fix this? This is so annoying. And then I thought, hey, you'll be looking for a really interesting idea. Why not have electric matatus? And I was like, this is Kenya, blah, 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 but I was like, so I kept thinking about it. Oh, eventually it was like, shit.
So while you're thinking about, did you have the knowledge that, you required to be able to, implement such a solution that you're thinking about?
Absolutely not. And so that's what I'm getting to. So I thought about it and said, this is cool. And my initial idea, like many people, is to put a solar panel on top of a matatu. I realized that was really, really dumb because you needed to put like 60 of them to power the matatu every single day. And as you know, 60 solar panels cannot fit on the top of a minivan. So I realized I needed technical person to help me out. And so I met my now founding investor and friend and partner, who we kind of like came together and saw the opportunity. But then at the time, I had to go back to finish my second year. So I went back, I finished that. And then I came back home now in 2019, and I knew I was going to do something. Although because of my work with the Living Machine, I was offered an opportunity to work for Synergy, which is a waste treatment, kind of like waste manufacturing facility. They make fertilizers from, like black soldier flies and animal manure, animal feeds rather. So it was really interesting. I worked there for 4 months doing business development, but I realized, hey, this is cool, but it's not for me. I really wanted to do my own thing. I didn't quite get along so much with my boss. And so I was like, okay, I was thinking about Mazi for a long time. So I just chose to dive in. Now at the same time, I still had opportunities to go to the US to study. So for me, I looked at the macro and I said, where is everything happening? Everything is going to happen here on the continent. There's so many problems to solve. There's so many things to do. I don't have to deal with racism. I don't have to deal with like culture shock. I don't have to deal with all the things that I hear my friends in the US complaining about. And so it was hard, obviously, seeing everyone go off to uni and not having that opportunity or not having the opportunity, but was cool to then just like push forward and decide the path. So yeah, Renatus, when I really look at it, we had an opportunity to change the world. And that's what I saw Mazi as, but it evolved eventually. Now, obviously, there's COVID happened, things have slowed down, and I thought, oh my goodness, what a big risk. Even now, it's still a big risk. But again, the opportunity was right in front of me. I was well positioned, and I had to take it with both hands. As they say, opportunity knocks only once at every person's door. So I don't know if this is my one opportunity. I mean, I don't know how much I believe that statement, but for me, this was opportunity knocking.
Well, that's interesting. And you spoke about, how you are thinking of, if you could use solar panels to power the bodas, right? And then, wait, how do you call them actually? You said, what name did you use?
Oh, in terms of the electric ones?
Yeah.
So I call them Nduvis, which is like, Kikuyu. In Kikuyu, this is like a local language here in Kenya.
Okay.
They're called Nduvis, right? So with an I, so we call them Nduvis. But then they're also called e-bike, e-boarders, our bike. I feel like that's the name.
Yeah. So when you're actually thinking about using solar panels to power them, you actually said you thought about it. You said they could not feed on top and stuff like that, and then you started thinking of what other solutions you could use. Actually, I mean, I've came across the first principles, thinking in the first principles, and it's like boiling down things to the fundamental truth, and like trying to solve it from there. And I think it's something that is it something that you also use when you're thinking about such a solution.
Yeah, I think first principles is I read somewhere. First principles thinking works if you're a genius, and if you're not, you can really go wrong. It's like a big fundamental problem. So initially when I started it, and first principles was really popularized by Elon Musk,
Definitely,
specifically in his tweets. But I thought not in first principles, but specifically more from like a problem point of view. I think now looking back, yes, it was first principles because when you look at the build process, it's kind of like boiling it down to what's actually the problem, actually the thing we're facing. And so you could say that, but like I didn't actively say, oh my goodness, first principles, this is a framework.
Yeah, but the way that you thought was, like kind of aligning with that principle.
Yeah, it's kind of one of these things where you're doing something and you don't even know it has a name. And then it's like, oh, wow.
Oh,
this is actually what this is. Yeah, that's the name. So.
Yeah, making the decision not to go to college, how did your parents and your relatives react to that? Because, I mean, that's not something you actually expect.
Yeah, our relatives be damned, to be honest. I mean, but the people I really cared about specifically was my parents, my mom's in particular, who fought the thought for a very long time, trying to get me to go to school here, trying to get me to go to school online, trying to get me to get another job once I was working. That's why I'm not Makamazi. And now is when she's like, oh my goodness, like I can see it,
Yeah, definitely.
Now she sees the vision, but before that, it was a really tough thing. And mothers want the best for you. They want you to succeed. They want you to grow. They want you to be not a burden and have to depend on them when you're 40. And so I think just taking that risk, but I also saw, one thing that really convinced me is I spoke to a bunch of people in places where I wanted to be. So these were consultants, McKinsey, and like private equity bankers, because that's what's learning. I was learning economics and computer science. And from what I heard from them, it's, I never really used my degree, or it was cool, it's like hectic, blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, man, 4 years, you don't even know where you're going to end up. And I asked myself, what's my end game? Where do I want to be? And the answer to me was very clear. I wanted to run my own company. I wanted to do my own business. So I said, well, I could spend 4 years building my company, and by the time everyone else is out of uni, we could see where we are. And now it's kind of like I am right in the center of everything. We are writing policy on e-mobility for Kenya, but also think we're writing policy for the continent. And this guy like me who's doing this with all these old people. So I always say it's if you know if the opportunity can be exploited, if you know what you're looking at, it can make a lot of sense to go for it. And this is just simply the path. It's just like I keep telling people, I would advise go back or advise people to actually get a job first. Like go through very interesting. Go through uni, get a job, save money, and then start a company, because that's much easier than what I had to face. Starting my company, especially because my company is capex intensive. So progress took a long time to show. because I just didn't have cash.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we'll actually get into the funding part, but before we get into that, I mean, you didn't go to university because you're actually thinking what's your end goal, right, and what you want to achieve, and you realize that it's actually starting your own company, something that you can do without having to go to college, and like the 4 years that you'll have spent in college, then you can use them to start working on your company, right? I mean, I think a lot of people actually out there, they usually go to college without having any idea of what they're gonna do after college. And it's like the moment they graduate, they start from zero, and it's like, what do I want to do with my life? Because they
Right.
get so comfortable in college too.
Yeah, that's true, and I mean, that's very true. People, I have been plagued with the question of, what I want to do for a very long time. I've shifted between careers. But also benefit from my mom really hammering into me about self-reflection, and so I asked myself these questions really early. Like, what do I want to do? What purpose do I have? Kind of boring. Like this 13-year-old kid is asking himself this question. But at the same time, it's something I was obsessed with. I just needed to figure out, why am I here on this earth? What's the purpose? What's the point?
That's a deep question.
And so, I don't think everyone needs to have oh my goodness, I'm here to save the world. Great, if that's your thing. But I just think, I came to, and when I was 18, I gave a TEDx talk on purpose. And I said, purpose is like a table of food. And everyone has their own type of food they like. And people are able to either commit to something for their whole lives, find something and go for it, or like many of us try two or three things, or like few of us have the capacity to do a lot more. So I don't feel like people should feel boxed in and think like I have to find it. Sometimes the purpose could just be being a really good person. And it sounds like very like, oh wow, no, but that could be it. That could be because we define what purpose means to us. It's just something that speaks to fundamentally what and who Renatus is. And that's a thing that only you can answer. That's a thing that only I can answer, in line with my personal convictions, in line with what I think my capability is, with what I want to leave as a legacy and leave behind. So these are some of the things that guided my thinking. So I feel like my decision was made, the thinking to make this decision happened 10 years before I had to make this.
Wow.
Because again, it started, right? Obviously, there's a lot that I learned and I evolved as a person. But I feel like if I didn't start asking those questions, I may have just gone to university and done it. And also, as you said, everyone I spoke to just was like, hey, I don't know what I was doing in uni. It was good 4 years. I partied a lot. And I said, well, I like partying, but I also know that I'm only young for a certain period of time. And I can do both. I can party and I can still like do something cool. So yeah, I just didn't want to waste time. I also feel like this decade is very crucial for the continent. People like you and I, we're going to be 30 by the end by the turn of the decade. And I mean, that's us, my friend. I want to position the continent. I want to be one of the people who shapes the continent to absorb the incoming increase in population. I want to be able to shape the continent to be in a point where I can do something about climate change as someone who's going to be here when we're going to be affected by climate change.
Yeah,
everyone else in my industry is really old. And yeah, cool. I mean, they're doing something about it because their generation fucking caused the problem. Forgive my French. But I think it's up to us now. And I was telling someone the other day, seeing a transition. Actor that's like really popular these days, Timothée Chalamet, from Dune. I'm just like, this guy's been in so many projects. And I was telling someone, this guy's like the Leonardo DiCaprio of our generation. And I was like, holy shit. That means the mantle has started to shift. We're not going to be seeing Leonardo maybe not seeing as much on our screen as the next 10, 20 years is going to be Timothy Chalamet. And so this means that we're taking over. There's a transition. And you see, the thing is with transitory periods, we never really see them until we are done. Or like it's like late stage. And it's like, oh my goodness, wow. And that's why there's that adoption curve. Right?
Yeah.
So I feel like we are still in the early adopter phase with the opportunity we're Africans, and people from outside the continent are seeing this as an opportunity, and they're coming in their numbers. We need to make sure Africa is built by Africans. We do, I think, for me, that there should be collaboration from the West, but more specifically, you know the problems of the people in your community better than I do.
True, Jesse.
You should design products and solutions for them, because they will demand these products on a consumer level and at an industry level. So why leave it to people who don't understand people and research about it, come in within 3, 4, 5 days, set up a company, able to raise funds, and then beat you out on the market? Well, you have an opportunity now. So I think a bunch of things really guided my thinking. And beyond like social issues and economic issues and the political landscape and demographics and future and who I am as a person. So this is the thing, when thinking about stuff like this, it's very complex decision making because you have to consider so many angles.
Absolutely, and it's like you don't know how it's gonna turn out. So like you're juggling balls.
It's another funny thing about life. It's just you don't know. I mean, we all don't know the next 10 minutes. No one knows. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, so one of the things you spoke about saying actually how, like only a few people in the community have the opportunity to actually be working on a lot of different projects, right? And there was this article actually my friend shared with me, I think the day before yesterday, and I was going through it and it was speaking about the mind of an entrepreneur, right? And it was speaking about the side of an entrepreneur that most people do not know, right? The side that, they undergo constant struggles and failures and depression and, like bankruptcy. And it's like people don't know all these sides, right? So as an entrepreneur yourself, I mean, what are some of these sides that you actually have experienced so far? And it's like, despite the fact that you experienced them, it's clearly that, you're still making a step, still making progress.
I consider like, there's this video, I'm sorry to mention Elon Musk so many times, but there's this video of Elon Musk when he was launching the spaceship.
The rockets, yeah.
Yeah, and he was like had tears in his eyes. His heroes told him that, this doesn't make sense. We don't agree with you. He had tears in his eyes. So much at risk. And I feel like, but when it launched, it was incredible. All that was gone in an instant. And nothing else describes the journey of an entrepreneur quite like that. It's a roller coaster. It's ups and downs, it's movement, it's so many things. So, even for me, it's been the same. I mean, I told you, I started a company before COVID. There was a lot of time when it paused. And because it was CapEx intensive, I couldn't show progress without, having capital. So there's a lot of time where I just thought, man, what am I doing? But I knew that this was not vaporware. This was going to be a big opportunity. The world was shifting to electric vehicles, as you can see on my screen. And this is something that needed to happen. So I said, if I stay on and if I'm hungry, if I keep just, showing up consistently, I didn't know. I didn't know the path. I didn't have really anyone to guide me. Not true. I mean, I did have a lot of help from Anzisha through like my portfolio manager, shout out to Tanya. But in true essence, no, like I didn't have a path to navigate VC. I didn't have a path to navigate like raising capital. I didn't have a path to just figure out what was the next step. And I just kept showing up every day, trying to talk to people, trying to push this agenda, this person. And people always tell me, oh, Jesse with a living machine, did you ever think you're going to fail? And genuinely, I did not. I spent 8 months of my life when people are applying to college, I was applying to the living machine to Zayed. Spent 8 months of my life without contemplating failure. And I think about it now, I'm like, that's really dumb. Like that's like any logical person would think differently. But yeah, that's just I feel that's just how I'm built. I just feel like the opportunity is big enough, if it's impactful enough, it's worth going for. And if you fail, you fail, and you just get up
and you try again.
Yeah, easier said than done for sure, but it's inevitable. You're gonna fail. I fail every day. I feel stupid every day. Yeah, there's always something to learn. There's always the base of one mountain. Is the top of another mountain. So, you're always climbing.
Yeah, I mean, and regarding to the fact that there's always something new to learn every single day. I mean, like when it comes to manufacturing, motorbikes. I mean, this was not something you're actually doing in school, right? It's like it's something that you actually learned on your own, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's where most people fail, actually. I mean, it's like after we finish, I mean, I don't know, we graduate, whether it's high school or it's college, it's like we feel that at that point in time, it's like we are done learning. It's like, well, let's just go into the world and enjoy it. I think things are actually pretty different from how we think when we're in school and stuff. You actually spoke a lot about Elon Musk, right? I mean, is he someone that you look up to, and how does he motivate you?
Yeah, in some ways, like many people, Elon Musk is inspiring. But I think for me, the one thing I take from him is just his spirit is just to keep fighting.
Yeah, keep moving.
Yeah, and to keep fighting. So I wouldn't say it's like a role model. People have, very interesting. They call me Elon Musk of Kenya, which I don't agree with. But I think what he's been able to do is remarkable.
Yeah, and actually has been named by Time Magazine as Person of the Year. And speaking about what he's doing is remarkable. I mean, you're also working in kind of the same, like industry that he's also working on, I mean, having electric vehicles, right? And he's actually been making a lot of progress with Tesla. And, you are right here and working with Mazi Mobility. Who knows? Maybe soon enough we'll actually see, cars from you.
Hey, you never know. Stay tuned.
Absolutely, yeah.
Stay tuned.
We will. We surely will. And I'll actually be watching you closely.
Well, yeah, thank you. I mean, we'll see what happens. There's still a lot of things to figure out with the water side, the motorcycle side first. But I think there's opportunity to do cars and it makes sense. Why not?
Yeah, and so I mean, here's the thing. After you produce the electric bikes, right? I mean, it's not something that a lot of people actually use in Kenya or East Africa in general, right? I mean, how was it like you selling your first electric bike to whoever the customer was?
Actually, there's a lot of demand for these motorcycles. I just can't meet them, so I had to fight my first customer because I didn't want to sell the bikes to them.
Well, you wanted to keep it?
I wanted to collect like data and do a lot of like data collection and stuff to test them. But they didn't. They wanted them right away, which was an interesting problem to have.
Yeah, and I actually ride on one of them, like electric bike, a couple of times actually, and the experience is quite amazing. It's like it's so quiet, and you don't have all the the smoke coming out, and it's shaking, vibrating a lot. Actually, it's actually a very smooth and convenient ride, and I'm pretty sure that it's like it having a high demand. I mean, doesn't actually surprise me.
Yeah, you're totally right. There's a lot of high demand for the motorbikes. It's quiet, it's cheap to operate and to maintain. If you can get over the high upfront cost, you're gonna save a lot, and it also makes sense because, for example, in Kenya the grid is really clean. So
I mean, so, actually, Africa has been making a lot of leapfrogging progress, right? For example, when it came to banks, right, it's like a lot of countries in the world are actually using banks and, like physical money. And then boom, from Kenya, actually, you guys again came up with M-Pesa, mobile transaction. It's like the whole of East Africa right now is actually adopting that, right? So do you think actually before Africans are able to, like most of them are able to own, petrol motorbikes or vehicles, they'll actually leapfrog to electric vehicles.
so I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and even
100%.
even the president of Rwanda actually said that he wants to ensure that as soon as possible, the whole country is filled with electric bikes. He doesn't want petroleum, like the current motorbikes that exist, the ones that use petrol.
But yeah, because you face a big problem around foreign exchange problems and then
Yeah,
currency risks.
that's true.
Because petrol is really subsidized.
So behind you actually is the product that you actually have created, right? And well, it looks great actually. Kudos on that. Nice work you've done over there. So about color. Why did you choose green? Is it because it represents nature and and such things, or it's because it's a color that you like? Oh, how did you think about it?
Yeah, it is. But also it's really like bright, and we tested this initially with customers. It's also like Mazi colors. I like blue and green. I think they fit. So yeah, it's beautiful.
And it does look beautiful. It's
That's
beautiful.
why. Yeah.
Well, where do you see? It looks beautiful. We actually show a picture of them and, like someone riding it. I believe you'll have such footages.
Yeah. Right.
So as yourself, where do you see, as the founder and CEO of Mazi Mobility, where do you see your company in the next, like 5, 6, 7, 8 years down the line?
All over the continent. Probably have done maybe over 100,000 motorcycles and have built out the infrastructure across different markets. Have a few different product lines, maybe cars, we'll see. So yeah.
I'm also going to ask you a question that I actually asked the last guy I had an interview with, right? So he spoke about how, like African individuals and governments and institutions do not actually value, like the African entrepreneurs that we currently have, right? So on your end, what kind of support have you been receiving from, institutions such as governments when you needed it? Is this something that you actually received, or, it's still a challenge that you're experiencing in the continent?
Well, African governments, honestly, there is a lot of push on our side. I think that there needs to be more regulatory support for Africans that have started African companies, because what you see is lots of foreigners call their company Kenyan, but when they need to be there from where they're from, so are they really a Kenyan company? And they get the same benefits as us, while we don't have that opportunity. We're not able to leverage funding from other markets. So I think it's a big challenge for the Kenyan government to really put down incentives for African entrepreneurs, Kenyan entrepreneurs, and enable them to actually have that opportunity to take off.
Oh, that's great. And I'm looking forward to, like African governments creating initiatives that will actually assist African entrepreneurs, because, if they don't do that, other countries will just come in and, snatch them away. It's like they're creating change. They're doing something great. So they'll just take them to their countries and they'll start working from there.
Right, yeah.
I actually saw Mahali Muzuri Hotel, Visions Hotel, that was listed as not only the best hotel in Kenya, but the best hotel in the world, actually, right? So I think the Kenyan brand name is actually really making wave outside. And,
Yeah.
later we'll actually see Mazi Mobility vehicles doing the same.
Yeah, from your lips to God's ears. 100%. We hope gain from audience, because, as you know, I think we're doing really good work, and yeah, I think we're gonna get there.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know you spoke about how much you love, like having a sustainable economy, right? But when things get tough, right, what gets you up early in the morning? Because nobody holds you accountable, right? I mean, you're an entrepreneur, you're on your own, and it's like if you decide to sleep, you can sleep. If you decide not to work, you can do that. So it's like, what pushes you?
Yeah, you can't sleep as an entrepreneur. Your business will wake you up. I think there's something really humbling about knowing that what you do directly impacts how much you make,
Mhm.
and whether or not you eat that day. And for me, I have staff, so a big chunk of like my motivation is them and what we're doing. I also have the mission. So I kind of go to the big picture whenever I feel stressed.
Mm.
So I'm like, remember your why. Why are you doing this? That's a goal. And I always ask myself, have I left everything on the table? Have I exhausted all possibilities? Have I fought as hard as I could fight? Answer is yes. I sleep well.
Mm,
That's it. That's my rule of thumb.
Yeah. And okay, we'll just dedicate the last few minutes, to speak to, for you to actually share your experience with, like other young African entrepreneurs who will be watching this, right? It's like most often, like they'll think of solution and, the first problem that comes to their mind is money, because it's always money. Well, you're actually able to start, such a company that produces such products actually in a cutting edge technology, because it's a technology that is, currently growing, right? And it's like, about money, right? Let's say I'm a young entrepreneur watching right now, right? I have an idea I want to implement out there, and I'm worried if I'm gonna get money to be able to, like work on the project that I'm working on, right? Like, what's your advice to me?
Um, there are many like kind of like places you could look for cash. Incubators, grant funding, and like we asked, where would I get grant funding? So, for example, opportunities for Africans is like something like that, or F6S,
Mm,
which is like a platform that allows you to look at the competitions. You'll see actually mostly in the early stage of entrepreneurship, you go for a lot of competitions. And that's just because you're looking for visibility or credibility, also looking to get some cash, because these competitions come with cash. One thing we were able to win, and I am fully grateful to our friends at Oxford, is Oxford Africa competition. I pitched, I won £5,000. And I think most people have like maybe software ideas. If you have a software idea, you don't need so much money. And also, ask yourself, is money really the problem? How can you validate your idea without as much money, spending as much money as possible? So, for example, if you have a software concept, I was speaking to another English student about fintech they want to start, and I said, hey, all you need to do is just create a landing page and market this to people, to your direct audience, and speak to them. A lot of the time, you can have a better understanding of your problem by just talking to people you think need your solution. So this is some of the things you need to think about, and then money will come. So for me, for example, I talked to my customers. I wanted to understand their mindset. So when I didn't have the cash, I started thinking about how else can I make the case for my business stronger? How else? Because you see, the thing I think about like MVPs and early stage business is you're trying to remove as many questions as possible, answer as many questions as possible as to how you think is going to run. The quicker you're able to do that, the faster you are going to be able to raise capital, because investors care about risk. And early stage is very risky for sure. But if you can figure out a way to de-risk that, not only does that make you look good, make you look like a serious entrepreneur, but also puts you in a position to negotiate better equity for your business. So there are some things you can do with that money, and some that you cannot. So understand what those are honestly, and then do what you can when you don't have, but still look for the money through grant competitions. There's lots of stuff that comes on, and money opportunities. As I say, man, it's really hard to do it when you don't have any capital and don't have any cash. Like I was like out of uni, out of high school. Well, yeah, wow, crazy to say. So I always tell people that's why people get a job, because have some sort of like side income, save some money, and then go. Because so don't feel like your idea is like my idea is so precious. No, it's not. Ideas are dimes a dozen. Very few times ideas like really, really valuable on their own. Execution is. You realize the idea I started with is not the idea I'm pushing now. It's not. So yeah, you feel very protective of what you're doing. Focus on a good idea is great. It's a multiplier of success, but execution and ability to deliver something people want. Yeah, and also be a good manager. Investors like good managers, and that's why you need to know how to manage people. You need to be a good leader. Yeah, you need to know how to keep people accountable. So I think starting a company is one of the hardest things you're ever going to do. Someone told me this. Aside from having a family, so you have to be really sure.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, so you spoke about how ideas are not as well. You said they're valuable, but execution matters a lot, right? Just a quick question: did you read the book "The Millionaire's Fast Lane" by MJ DeMarco? Because
I haven't read that. No.
Oh, wow, that's interesting, because it also speaks about the idea of how people usually, stick to their ideas and they don't want to share because they think people will steal them and, all that stuff. And in real sense, it's like how you execute your ideas, that's what matters the most, right? And I mean, last question. If you are, of course, you're speaking to entrepreneurs right now, right? What are some of the things that they probably do not think of right now, but you are sure that they'll be actually experiencing such things when they start, like working on their projects and bringing them to life and, like taking them into the real world out there?
Well, I don't know what they're thinking, but maybe if I could go back to younger me, I definitely had no idea initially how important building a good team was and how to attract talent. So that's something that's important to think about. Also, collect as much data as possible at every point of the journey. Ask the questions you're scared of asking, because I know you have them that you're scared of. You don't want to ask the question that could kill your company. Ask it. Ask that question. Will people actually buy this? Does this actually work? Does it solve a problem? Because you'll face a lot of imposter syndrome as an entrepreneur. But I think confronting that honestly is something that will be helpful to you in the long term. So, yeah.
I mean, because honestly, like when you have conversations with people who are actually interested in becoming entrepreneurs and they haven't started any ventures, you can hardly hear them speak about, some of the challenges that they might face along the way, because they think that it's an easy ride. It's just like, wake up, start a business, and boom, people are waiting for you, and you can relax and go to the beach and have fun.
Yeah, I don't think the beach story, we don't know when that will happen, if it will happen. I think it's funny. You think that if that's your reason, I would say don't start a company. There are easier ways to make money. Yeah, there are easier ways to make money. So if you want to go to the beach and like have a good life, don't start a business. There are easier ways to do it. Trust me.
Starting a business.
Trust me, yeah. It's not that simple.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, before we close off, I have one final question. Tell us a bit about your heart.
Okay. Well, so it's funny. I've had various variations of this hat, and I did not know until I asked my mom to send me pictures of me as a kid. And I actually had one of the same red hats. So I feel like it's something that's been part of me. But also I got it from a friend from Tunisia. And for me, I look Nigerian, I studied in South Africa, I'm Kenyan, this is from North Africa. So in a very, very interesting way, I bring the continent together every day.
Yeah.
So I like it because that's what it shows. And also it's cool, it's different, it's good branding. people is like, hey, that's a guy with a red hat. And no one can really tell, like, if it's for religious reasons, if I'm like a Nigerian chief, if I'm a Muslim, no one can really tell. So I also really enjoy the ambiguity.
That's nice. Looks like it's gonna be your icon, when you see you on the page of Times Magazine, you're probably gonna be having that hat.
Yeah, for sure. I always say whenever I have the hat on, I'm always working. When my hat is off, I'm off.
You're also
When it's on, I'm
signed out. Jesse, asante sana, nimefurahi kwamba tumeweza kuongea, and this has been really interesting.
Thank you. I've loved having been on here. Fortunately, we managed to make it work.
Definitely. And actually, I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you again in the next 2, 3, 4 years, seeing how far you have reached and the impact that you're creating now. It won't be in Kenya only, but, like the whole African continent, we pray.
Yeah, we pray. But yeah, we're going for it. We're going to try as hard as we can and just focus on what we can control.
That's great. Just asante sana, and enjoy the rest of your evening, and say hi to Kenya for us.
Okay, yes. Likewise, enjoy your evening, and say hi to the good people of Kigali.
Yes. I'll do that.
Awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good one, brother.
See you.